In Barkin Chiawa, the harmattan arrived like an old debt. Knowing it was coming did nothing to soften the blow. The village sat low between two hills. It had mud walls and tin roofs, honest the way poor things are honest. Only the mango trees were generous. Neman had eaten more than his share of the mangoes. He was 12 or 13 because his mother remembered births by seasons and not dates. He was the fourth of 5 children. He lived in the invisible middle, where children learn to be clever or forgotten, and he chose to be clever. He had a particular trouble with crayfish. 3 times his mother sent him to Mama Bako's store, and 3 times he returned with an empty packet. I was hungry. The breeze took it. The 3rd time he said nothing at all, and his mother sent his older brother Yakubu instead. Neman was a boy the way rivers are rivers, always finding the low interesting path. He could make his little sister Zainab laugh until she fell down. School had stopped 18 months ago when his father's back gave out from years of hauling cement blocks. When the money ran out, Neman left school. Not the oldest, not the youngest, the middle one, the adjustable one, the one the family could bend without breaking. He did not cry. He only sat on the bench outside their door and watched a line of ants carry something 3 times their weight, and he understood something about that line he could not put into words. With his friend Hassan, he played a game of throwing stones into holes. He was good at it, good at saying where the stone would land, thinking 3 throws ahead. But no one in Barkin Chiawa had a word for that kind of saying. The Adeleke family arrived on a Tuesday in a car cleaner than anything that usually entered the village. A husband, his wife Funke, and a teenage daughter Temi, who looked at her phone with disinterest of someone performing boredom as a skill. Mrs. Adeleke taught at a secondary school in Ibadan and needed a young person to help around the house. In exchange, a room, food, and school. His father sat very straight and spoke in 3rd person. He is a good boy. He has sense. He only needs direction. Neman was called inside. He stood under the single bulb and felt something in his chest. The feeling of a door opening in a wall he had not known was a wall. You will go to school, Mrs. Adeleke said. Real school. And you will help us, not as a servant, as part of the house. He nodded. He did not trust his voice. That night, his mother combed his hair in the dark, talking in a low, even voice about who he was and where he came from, as though stitching his name into the lining of him. In the morning, the village shrank in the car window. Mango trees, borehole, his mother's wrapper catching the wind until it was just a color in the distance, and then gone. Ibadan swallowed him whole. The roads poured into other roads. The noise was louder than home. It was denser, layered, with no beginning and no end. The Adeleke home was a good home. He broke a glass on his 3rd day. His arm misjudging a distance it would not have misjudged in his mother's kitchen. Mrs. Adeleke came in, looked at him and said, "Get the broom." And that was all. He cried later in his room. The food was different. Good, but not the same kind of delicious as his mother's. His stomach was adjusting to prosperity. Iwemeji Community Secondary School had a painted gate and a library with actual books. He was placed in GSS 1, a head taller than the 10 and 11-year-olds. His knees pressed against the underside of his desk. "This one is too old," Chike announced on the 2nd day. Not unkindly, only factually, which was worse. The English was the worst part. At home, he spoke Hausa fluently, with humor and poetry. In Hausa, he was someone. In English, he was a person who had gone mute. When asked to read aloud, The sounds refused to organize themselves, and the class went quiet in a way somehow louder than laughter. His English teacher, Mr. Balogun, returned his essays covered in red with a note saying restructure. Neman did not know how to restructure a thought he had already thought. The mathematics wasn't different. The mathematics was the same everywhere. When Mr. Okonkwo put numbers on the board, the fog lifted. He solved problems with a speed that made Mr. Okonkwo pause mid-sentence. Where did you learn to do that? Neman thought of the stone and hole game, of the ant line. I don't know, sir. You know, Mr. Okonkwo said, and moved on. Uncle Biodun arrived during the December holiday. Mr. Adeleke's brother from Lagos. He brought a chess set, plastic pieces, several missing, and replaced with bottle caps wrapped in tape. He tried to teach Temi, who played 2 games and declared it boring, and returned to her phone. Neman had been mopping the hallway. He stopped at the doorway and watched. The way he had once watched the stone and hole game from outside the group, feeling the shape of the logic before the logic had a name. You want to learn? Uncle Biodu asked him. By that evening, Neman understood every piece. By morning, he had beaten Uncle Biodun twice. This boy is something. I know, Mr. Adeleke said over his newspaper. And Neman felt seen in a way that settled something quietly. He played constantly after that, against the board itself, taking both sides, thinking 5 steps ahead. The board did not laugh at his English. It was democracy of thought. His English improved precisely because the chess books in the school library had given him a reason to push through. He learned the Sicilian, the King's Indian, and even the French defense. In February, the school announced a chess competition. Neman saw the notice and felt 2 things: a fierce bright want, and a fear so cold it sat in his stomach like a stone. The fear won for a while. He walked past the sign-up list 3 times, his hand staying at his side. On Friday of that week, Chike passed him in the corridor and said, I heard they are having a baby competition. Our GS1 big man should enter. Maybe he can finally win something. The group laughed. It landed a bruise. That night, the thought came to him. He did not belong here. He belonged in Barkin Chiawa, on the deck beside the borehole. Every red mark, every laugh. He thought to himself, he was not the kind of person good things happen to. He took out paper to write to his mother. The writing blurred. He sat with the unfinished letter, listening to Ibadan. He thought of his father, sitting on the bench, saying he has sense. He thought of Mr. Okonkwo's pause after saying, you know. He thought of the board, beautiful, indifferent, perfectly logical. The fear did not leave, but he found he could hold it in one hand and something else in the other. Not confidence, but something quieter and more durable. The refusal to let his story end here, over an unfinished letter. He folded the letter and put it under his mattress. In the morning, he put his name on the list. Mr. Okonkwo pulled him aside that Monday. I saw your name on the list. I'm glad. The other students will laugh, Neman said. They might, and when you win, what will they do? Mr. Okonkwo said. Neman had no answer. He had never thought that far ahead in this context, only on the board. The day of the competition arrived. 8 players, single elimination. He drew Emeka, a GSS 3 student with a reputation, and he beat him in 22 moves. You are good, Emeka said, with nothing mocking in his voice. He won the tournament without losing a single game. The final was against Bola, who opened with a Sicilian. Neman understood that in this game, aggression is most dangerous to the person expressing it if they run out of a follow-through. He found the moment that Bola's attack had exhausted itself and pressed gently, precisely. Bola tipped his king. The library was very quiet. Then someone clapped, and then several. Neman felt for the first time since arriving in Ibadan that his body was the right size for the room he was in. Chike found him in the corridor afterwards. "You are good at that." Neman said yes quietly. He went on to represent Iwemeji School at the inter-school competition, which was held in his school, whose gates were taller than any building in Barkin Chiawa. The players were older, polished, and had learned chess in structured clubs. The printed program spelled his name wrong, Neman Yakuba, but he did not care. He won his first 4 matches. In the semi-final, he faced Adeleke, who played with extraordinary stillness. Her hands resting as though the board were a pond. She watched for ripples. She saw things early that he usually saw only at mid-game. He found himself defending. He thought of the antline. He thought of how the patient retreat can carry more power than the direct assault. He survived to an end game and converted it. "You almost lost that," Adeleke said. "I know, but almost is not the same thing." In the final, he won in 31 moves, second in the state. He called home. His mother went quiet, the full presence of a woman too full to speak. He heard his father's laugh rising clear as water. Zainab came on last. "Did you win all the money?" Neman laughed so hard he had to sit down. A letter came from the National Secondary Schools Chess Federation, an invitation to represent Oyo State. The prizes for the national champion: a full secondary school scholarship, a chess scholarship, and a sum of money he read 3 times, certain it was a misprint, but it was not. Mr. Adeleke drove him to the airport. He carried the chess theory book Mr. Okonkwo had given him, inscribed for Neman, who already knows more than he knows. When the plane lifted, he gripped the armrest, then let go. He pressed his face on the window and watched Nigeria fall away. Red roads, green trees, river like threads of light, everything large and complex from within, becoming from above a beautiful and comprehensible board. The final was on Sunday morning. His opponent was Kolade from Rivers State, top seed, twice regional champion. He was not arrogant, which was almost because Kolade had the quiet self-possession of someone who had long since made his peace with being exceptional. Neman played white. Kolade answered with the French defense. The pawn chains locked. For 20 moves, neither erred. On move 23, Kolade offered a pawn sacrifice that Neman stared at for 4 minutes. Beautiful, the kind that looks like generosity and isn't. He thought of Adeleke and the shape of aggression that had exhausted itself. He declined Kolade's pawn. Kolade's expression did not change, but his fingers held the next piece half a second longer than usual. On move 31, Neman found a move he had not seen until it was there. Quiet rook repositioning that threatened nothing directly, but shifted the geometry by 2 degrees, setting up a possibility 4 moves out. He had learned this from the death of Barkin Chiawa, from the stone and hole game with Hassan, from watching where things were going before they got there. The possibility arrived on move 36, bishop to g5. The fork was inevitable. Kolade found the best defense, lost a knight, held the structure. On move 48, Kolade slipped, a rook to the wrong square by 1 file. Neman saw it immediately and took 2 minutes to be sure. The end game was methodical. Neman was not impatient. He had grown in a village where the harmattan came when it was ready, where the path between where you were and where you were going was measured in seasons. On move 82, Kolade extended his hand. Good game. Neman shook it. He thought of Barkin Chiawa, of his mother's hands, of his father sitting straight, of the ant line, of the unfinished letter under his mattress, of the broken glass and the crayfish. God, the crayfish, and all the stone throwing afternoons with Hassan that had been, without either of knowing it, practice. Mr. Okonkwo was somewhere behind him, and Nemat could hear the sound a grown man makes when he is crying and pretending not to. In Barkin Chiawa, they tell a different version. They say Neman always had something in him, some quality of sight the village recognized even before they could name it. They say even his habit with the crayfish was evidence of a particular appetite for experience. The story is not less true for the retroarctic saying. What is true? A boy from a dirt road took a chance on a board. What is true? The board gave back what he put in. Every failed essay, every mocking laugh, every morning he got up and put his name where fear had told him not to. Neman went home that December bearing a scholarship and a trophy and a sum of money that changed the calculations his family made. He walked past the mango trees with his mother beside him and Zaina running ahead, and the village came out door by door, watching this boy who had gone away and back, changed and unchanged. The same river, different water. His father stood in the doorway. He looked at his son, at the straight back, at the steady eyes, at whatever had settled in this boy who had learned chess from a bottle cap board and flown above Nigeria in a metal machine. Then he opened his arms and Neman walked into them. The harmattan was coming. The mango trees stood against the evening, giving nothing yet, waiting for their season. All things in their season. They say if you listen on quiet afternoons near the borehole in Barkin Chiawa, you can still hear two boys arguing about a stone and a whole game that came before chess, the one that taught a boy how to see. Some lessons begin where no one is watching. All the best ones do.